Jack the Ripper was one of the most notorious serial killers ever to plague the streets of London. In 1888, 5 innocent women were murdered in the Whitechapel district.
The first unexpected murder was committed during the night of Friday the 31st of August 1888. From this night on, the unidentified character brought terror all around London.
The first of these victims was 43-year-old Mary Ann Nichols. She made her living as a prostitute in the Whitechapel area. That night, Mary had made earnings from 3 different clients. Mary Ann Nichols was found lying on the ground at around 3:40 a.m.
Upon inspection, I decided that Mary Ann Nichols had been deceased for over 30 minutes due to her legs still being warm. Her throat had been slit twice and there were many incisions across the abdomen. Due to the small amount of blood at the crime scene, it was clear that Mrs. Nichols' body wasn't found where she was killed.
Just 8 days later, another mysterious murder was committed. This time, Annie Chapman was murdered.
I remember seeing Annie Chapman around 5:30 on the morning of the 8th of September. I was looking out of the bedroom window which overlooked the Hanbury Street. As I heard the fight around the house, I noticed that Annie was with a man, someone who I hadn't recognised. The man was a little taller than Annie. He had dark complexion and was very shabby looking. Nothing seemed unusual at this time. I assumed that Annie had just been with a customer as the pair were just talking.
Annie Chapman's body was found at around 6 a.m. on the morning of the 8th of September, just half an hour after Mrs. Elizabeth Long seen her.
Jack the Ripper was striking fast and making all of London terrified as he continued his mysterious killings. On the 30th of September 1888, 2 murders were committed. The 2 victims were Elizabeth Stride and Catherine Eddowes. Like the previous victims, Elizabeth Stride and Catherine Eddowes were over the age of 40 and both made their living as prostitutes. Elizabeth was last seen at around 11:45 p.m, just a couple of hours before her death. Her body was found at around 1 a.m. on the morning of the 30th of September. Stride had been brutally murdered, just like the other victims, and was left with the same deep cuts on her neck, with several other wounds. Just hours later, Catherine Eddowes was found. Her new bonnet she had bought with her earnings was at the back of her head, her throat cut and her intestines drawn out and placed over her body.
The last of the murders happened on the night of November the 9th, 1888. Like the other Chronicle 4, Mary Jane Kelly was also a prostitute, proving who Jack the Ripper's target was. Although, unlike the others, Mary was the youngest of the victims and was brutally murdered at the age of 25. During the autumn of murders, hundreds of letters were sent to the police and local press claiming to be Jack the Ripper. The trade name Jack the Ripper was given when a letter was sent to the Central News Office. It was never known if the letter was from the real killer or a hoax. Jack the Ripper has left its mark in criminal history, making him one of the most mysterious and unidentified serial killers of all time.